In today's training, I want to walk you through the only 3 things that matter to scaling your e-commerce business. And this has come off the back of my own experience. I co-founded an e-commerce business in 2013 with my brother. That we bootstrapped that, started from the kitchen bench. That has now gone on to scale to multiple 7 figures per year. And I've also helped over 250 e-commerce brand founders hit record revenue months with their businesses as well, which you can check out using the link below. But what I call this is the magic 3. And it's really 3 components of your business that you need to think about when it comes to actually doing something that's effectively going to grow your business, because typically you'll have one or more of these areas that have deficiencies. Therefore, the opportunity to go and rectify that's actually going to move the needle. Now, people who are newish to e-commerce or don't really understand the mechanics of e-commerce, understandably, don't know how simple things need to be kept. And I'd say that people on the other side, you look at gurus and maybe even kind of agencies, they kind of certainly benefit through marketing and things like that and bringing on new customers and clients through overly complicating things and making things sound like they are harder than they actually are. Where in what I do in my program where I'm helping e-commerce brand founders, my job is to actually simplify things as much as they need to be. And you'll find that even just through this explanation that they are exactly that. There's really only 3 areas, 3 umbrellas, if you will, that you need to think about when it comes to growing and scaling your e-commerce business. So I want you to think about it like this through this discussion is start to identify through your business where your deficiencies are and where your opportunities are based on these 3 things I'm going to talk about. And I'll talk about a couple little strategies as well under each thing. Okay. So let's kick into it. So I call it the magic 3. It just summarizes these 3 components. But think about it like this. If you have any issue with driving revenue and sales through your e-commerce business, it comes down to one or multiple of these 3 things. The first one is traffic. Okay. Everybody needs traffic. Even if you're on a multi-million dollar per month level, everyone wants and needs more traffic. So this is a constant through everybody's business. But even if you're at day 0 and you have no traffic, obviously that's where you need to start. All right. So driving traffic to your site, relevant, engaged traffic, mind you, is really, really crucial. We need to serve impressions in some way, shape, or form to people in our market and emote them to come to our site. Okay. So the first thing is simply traffic. Now, when it comes to traffic, this is a bigger topic for another day. There's many, many ways that we can actually do that, but I'll really simply bucket it into paid methods, meaning, meta ads, for example, organic methods, meaning say social media, and then your database or email, SMS, subscriber list type marketing, right? You can drive traffic through each one of those means. And again, they're kind of like umbrellas as with the magic 3, but I call that actually the marketing triangle. So all your marketing will fall under one of those 3 umbrellas as well. Now, once you've actually been able to get relevant, engaged people, because mind you, in today's day and age, we can actually pay to drive as much traffic as we want. Like we could just put up an ad for $5 a day and drive thousands of people to our site. That's actually fact, but they're not going to be the right people. So there's a very big difference between the right people and the wrong people, right? Despite what we may think about logic, meaning why would someone go to a site if they're not interested? It's very, very important to understand that there are different objectives and different ways we can create ads and structure ads. Okay. So that's just a bit of a side note, relevant engaged traffic. So what that basically translates to is not necessarily volume, but intent. Because if we get a whole heap of random people that don't have any intent, but you get a large volume, you're going to send them to your site, and it's going to impact on the second part of the marketing triangle, which is conversions, website conversions. So once you're confident that you're driving some traffic of people that are of likely high intent to your site, then you may have a conversion issue if you're not getting the right amount of sales or converting at a decent rate. Now, it is a little bit industry specific. It depends on your average order value and all those sorts of things with what an average conversion rate is. But typically we would say for e-commerce, you're shooting for something between that 2.5 to say, well, as high as possible, but 2.5 to say, 4.5% conversion rate, right? 2 to 3 is pretty typical, but anything lower than that, and you've got a problem on your traffic side, meaning volume and intent, as we just sort of spoke about, okay? But also it can mean that your website's not converting appropriately. So again, there's a myriad of things that this could be, and you need to understand why that is and start to basically fix and test accordingly. Okay, so it could actually be a fundamental pricing and product issue. Right? It could be a user experience or user interface. It could be that there's not enough social proofing, that you just look like everybody else. You can't define your benefits and features. So there's a lot of different things it can do, but the umbrella or the bucket so to speak, is going to be your website's not converting at a profitable rate, especially if you are running paid ads to your site. So conversions is really important. One thing to drive the traffic. Second thing is to actually convert those people. Bang. If you can do that, if both those things, you've got sales coming through the door, you've got revenue coming through the door, you've got profit, hopefully coming through the door if your ad costs aren't too high. And then the third element is what I call lifetime values. So meaning getting people to come back and buy again. Now, this is again product specific. If it's a consumable, if it's a once off, if whatever, structure or products your business actually sells, it's going to be case by case. But it's really important that you have some level of lifetime value strategy. Okay, so if it is a consumable, obviously getting people back around and buying again, like cold pressed juice cleansing. People drink it and then they're out of it in a couple of days' time, so they can come back and buy again. Food products are obviously the same. But if you're not in a position where it's a consumable and your products happen to last forever, that's applicable to some businesses. It's like, well, potentially there's other products that you can cross-sell, or customers that you can upsell, or just generally cross-promote to get them to spend another dollar with you, because you have paid to acquire them, to drive them, to acquire them as customers in some way, shape, or form, whether that's time, effort, money, etc. You've actually paid to acquire them. And so anything that we can recoup on that back end through lifetime values, increasing lifetime values and getting them to spend more, is likely going to be profit. So firstly, they're worth more. Okay, you're going to recoup a lot more of your profit. And secondly, they're honestly 5 times easier to convert because they've had a good experience with you, assuming they've had a good experience with you in the past. So there's strategies that we can use to increase lifetime values that is extremely, extremely beneficial and often quite slept on by a lot of e-commerce businesses. Like, we're always pushing those new sales through, those next orders through, that we sometimes neglect the opportunity that's sitting right there in our customer base, our database. Okay, so hopefully that's just given you some ideas and understanding of, right, okay, I'm not where I want to be right now. Is it a traffic issue, like a legitimate traffic issue? Like, am I getting enough volume to actually see on site that I can get conversions? Or is the traffic that I'm actually driving not converting when they get on site? Is it an actual website issue, right? Or is it actually that I'm not getting enough profit through the door, or I'm not getting enough people back spending more money with my business? Is it a lifetime values issue? I dare say you might be in a couple of minds about where the culprit might be, so to speak, but it really is important to focus on one thing at a time and then move on to the next and then test little variations. I'll give you an example of a client in our community who came in and they were really pumped because they had increased their traffic by 50%, right? They used paid methods and they said, now my website's bombed, it's not converting. I said, okay, so I asked a few questions, a couple of probing questions, and we're like, okay, what actually transpired? Let's have a look at the site. And I said, I came down to it and I said, where was that additional traffic coming from? They said, oh, look, it's been awesome. We actually started running TikTok ads. And I said, okay, through experience and knowledge, I'm like, okay, let's have a look at those TikTok ads. Let's see how much you've spent, the volume of, say, clicks and traffic that have been driven from that source. Now let's actually compare that to the increase in traffic and decrease in conversion rates on site. What came out in the wash was basically the same volume of increase or volume of people coming from TikTok ads as landing on site. None of them converted, so they basically halved the conversion rate of on site. So what the conclusion there is, it's not the actual site that's lost conversions. It's actually the intent of that volume of traffic, like I mentioned. So knowing where to look and what the culprit actually is, because if they hadn't spoken to me about it, or I hadn't had that knowledge or experience from honestly making mistakes in the past, they would be like, okay, now I've got to knuckle down and spend days, weeks, months testing and changing my website and changing things on the website, when the fundamental problem was actually the traffic source. So what they did, as I advised, is turn off the TikTok ads, see how it goes for the next week. The traffic obviously dropped to site, but the conversion rate went back to normal and a profitable rate. So that was again the intent. So knowing what's what, knowing where the actual culprit is crucial, because then you can not be spending or wasting time on things that aren't important. Okay, so what you do is you ebb and flow between each one of those. Don't try and work on them all at once. You won't get any of them done, at least to the degree, and there's going to be multiple variables in there when you are assessing the effectiveness of what's what. Okay, yes, I increased this traffic source and then I changed all this stuff on website. My sales bombed, they're not converting. Was it the website changes or the traffic changes, right? So I hope that makes sense. So look, I just want to keep this short and concise. I want to give you as much value through that as possible, but hopefully that explains where your struggles might be. Hopefully you can identify that and just focus on one at a time, and then start to test and monitor over time through tracking, which we all do. We all should do. Everyone in our program actually does, because we need to see what's happening behind the scenes, not just the end result. Okay, we need to be able to look through the funnel and the machine and be able to see where our deficiencies are. Okay, so look, I hope this was valuable for you. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked it, please, I'd love a like, love a subscribe. I'm creating videos like all this time. If you want to know how we help e-commerce business, you click on the link below, check it out. But other than that, thanks for making it till the end. Appreciate you being here, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.